The cosmos is vast and difficult for mortals to fully comprehend, especially on account of its changing nature over the course of history. There are many ways of understanding the shape of the cosmos, similar to how there are many models of the atom. Each one is useful in its own way, but also slightly wrong in its own way. What is known to many scholars is that at the center of the cosmos lies the mundus, this being a universe of vacuum and stars which fuse hydrogen into helium, where planets orbit and collections of these orbital systems are arranged in a vast cosmic net of traveling galaxies. It is also known as real space or true space, depending on the civilization. Its physics are our physics, striking where it is interrupted by the foreign presence of arcane magic. There are many worlds, which have by historical travelers of the cosmos been mistaken for entire planes of existence due to their own strange natures, such as the diadem or the world of Frith, an artificial world predating the duarchy, and a planet where an accidental portaling created a planet where most tetrapods are evolved from frogs. However, these worlds all exist as planets and other celestial objects within the mundus. If one were to hop in a spaceship and travel the requisite time, one would reach these worlds without the usage of a portal or any other esoteric means of movement. The distances between habitable worlds within the mundus is vast, though, and esoteric movement is thus preferable and historically prevalent. The precise shape of the cosmos is hard to understand because one's place within it obscures the whole truth. The cosmos is physically different for different people or groups of people. Between two individuals, the changes are extremely subtle, but the greater the divide, the more fundamental the change. This can manifest even in the makeup of physical spaces. The cosmos is fundamentally composed of energies that we might call elements or elemental forces. These are not physical substances as much as they are resonant frequencies of the cosmos, in the same way that visible light is composed of colors, defined by frequencies of vibration. The cosmic noise created by the constructive and destructive interference of these waveforms is what generates the mundus, at least in a certain model of understanding. For most human cultures, there are four fundamental elements: earth, water, air, and fire. But for most dragon cultures, there are five: earth, air, wood, fire, and metal. For either one, the universe is composed of fundamentally different sets of harmonizing energies. These energies also manifest as the elemental planes, as they are known. Each of these exist as planes or extra-dimensional spaces which exist alongside the mundus, out of sync with it, while also being part and parcel to its whole. They are the isolated energy signatures of each fundamental element, and thus exist as whole universes which follow different physical laws, occasionally bleeding into the mundus through overlaps or tears. In a cosmological sense, the elemental planes are nearby in that they are easily traveled to, though traveling the planes is never without risk or difficulty. It is possible to travel immense distances using certain forms of esoteric movement, even planar distances. The places of the cosmos are connected by liminal spaces, which connect places of similar resonant energies. These spaces are thus tied to the elements, with each existing as an extension of an elemental plane, connecting both locales within that plane, as well as within the mundus and other planes. Keeping scope to the common human understanding of the cosmos, there are four elemental planes: earth, water, fire, and air. The elemental plane of earth, also known as the deep, the down below, or the realm of Ataya Talal, is a place composed mostly of solid matter, an infinite expanse of stone, soil, metal, gravel, and more, as though the interiors of planets were the entirety of the universe. In this universe, the deep is lit primarily in infrared light by what are known as undersuns, vast star-sized regions of unfathomable volcanism, the centers of which fuse heavy elements to produce light and warmth. Their activities create huge fissures of magma streaming outward, like a twisted combination of solar flare and caldera. Huge sections of solid Earth float atop them, creating tectonic movements that emanate across the entire plane. Gravity here is notable. The universal presence of Earth is effectively equivalent to vacuum. There is no up or down or even perceived force of gravity, as all the Earth pulls on you with equal force. This ceases being true when tectonic activity, the passage of great worms, or erosion by water create voids within the Earth. These deviations in the uniformity of the plane create perceivable gravity, which creates a downward that clings to the floors, ceilings, and walls of these spaces, making them all in truth equally the floor. The liminal space connected to the plane is known as the Deep Road, or the Wyrmway, as it consists of long cylindrical tunnels connecting cave systems across the cosmos. These paths are very stable and used as highways of trade, but they are occasionally recrossed by the great worms who carve them. Danger lurks around every corner. The elemental plane of fire, also known as the Inferno, the Hot Lands, or the Forge of Khefer-Arin, is a place which is inverse to typical reality. Here, rather than a cold vacuum, space is hot by default, experiencing temperatures of thousands of degrees Kelvin, such that the stellar medium itself glows a dull red. Conversely, the stars of this plane are known as cold stars, for good reason. Through a process not well understood, their reactions do not produce heat and light, but rather absorb it, cooling the hot vacuum of space and dimming the terrible light of the void between stars. It is thus that cold stars create habitable zones, cooling space to temperatures which allow for any amount of complex chemistry to occur. Though even this intense cooling leaves planets with surface temperatures comparable to that of Mercury. It is a universe where the void of night burns red, where the stars are dim and white, and nebulae burn with intense energies. It is deeply inhospitable, and most life which exists here is non-native, having evolved strategies to cope with the extreme conditions. The elemental plane of air, also known as the Great Sky, the Freefall, or the domain of Ornos, is a large and empty space, a forever sky, where there is atmosphere throughout all the universe. Here the stars blend seamlessly with the mingled air, and the pressure they produce upon the atmosphere around them allows them to fuse atoms at a lower temperature, lighting the eternal blue sky, and through their limited but still considerable heat generation, produce vast cosmic winds, which render apart any large celestial objects. It is thus the winds carry with them massive quantities of dust and debris, feeding vast ecosystems, such as the floating algal nebulae, upon which massive filter feeders dine. Many plants spread seeds designed to float stellar distances on the wind before sprouting, rooting into whatever flotsam they happen to bump into, and growing into spherical plants, soaking up the diffuse sunlight. Just as in space, one experiences microgravity within the plane of air. However, the relatively thick interstellar medium allows one to swim through the air, and many native organisms are as such evolved to fly vast distances, floating on thermals the size of mountain chains. The elemental plane of water, also known as the Abyss, the Eversea, and the Belly of Anko, is a universe of infinite, surfaceless ocean. Here the cosmic web is composed of unfathomable ocean currents, where no star burns in the dark. The deep waters of the abyss are instead lit by celestial fish, near-spherical filter feeders of stellar proportion, who feed on clouds of bioluminescent algae, and who glow themselves with the intensity of stars, bringing light to the dark waters. In this universe, the wandering galaxies are in fact schools of these placid animals. However, just as schools of fish in the Mundus are preyed upon, so too are the celestial fish. Truly abyssal-looking predators of massive proportions prey on the celestial fish, flinging forward their jaws like goblin sharks. However, the size of celestial fish and their predators means that just like stars and planets, they move at relativistic scales. Thus, the bite of the predator takes millions of years to complete. Whole civilizations can rise and fall beneath a sky where the sun itself seems perpetually frozen in moments just before it is consumed. The slinking predators are orbited by clouds of orphan worlds, and starved of light, the lifeforms there begin to take on the ghoulish visages of the beasts around which they circle. Some of these worlds are even inhabited, warmed by tidal kneading, as they find erratic orbits around the unceasing movements of the sun-eaters. The liminal space associated with this plane is the sea between, often described as the surface of the elemental plane of water, an impossible thing given the plane's infinite nature, but nonetheless not wholly inaccurate. It takes the form of a calm sea, lit by bright suns and lapped by gentle waves, and it connects all seas in the cosmos. It is sailed by merchant ships of every size and description, carrying trade goods of innumerable variety across the vast cosmos. Beyond the liminal spaces, there are other prominent routes of planar trade and travel. The most prominent of these are the so-called planar rivers, paths carved through the plains by magic and water that connect distant locales. They are of a defined set, though what does and does not count is a subject of scholarly debate. Each is unique and possesses magical qualities both in its manner of travel and in its waters. These rivers are the most common means of interplanar and interplanetary travel throughout history, as their paths are the most reliable. There are many maps of the cosmos wherein the various patches of land the rivers pass through are mapped out as though they were a single continuous landscape, often arranged such that the rivers form a series of concentric circles. These are the most common forms maps of the cosmos take, second only to the hexagram model of the cosmos, which maps the planes as distant dots, or locations, connected by planar crossings, forming a series of connected triangles. Planes which are not the mundus, or elemental planes, fall into a third loose category, typically called the scatter, or outer planes. The scatter is then often loosely subdivided into the empyrean and the maelstrom, regions defined largely by series of planar connections, and by the alignments of outer planes to specific gods. Each of these planes is unique, and often a bespoke creation of some description. Chief among them is Jade Mountain, a plane which takes the form of a landscape floating disembodied in a void, which rises into the center and to an impossibly tall mountain. The mountain is surrounded by a ring of walls, districts, and buildings which form the city of Genesis. Far and away at the top of the mountain is the palace, itself greater in size than many cities, and where sits the Jade Throne, the seat of the cosmos itself. It is for this symbol of ultimate power, which gods have for millions of years fought for and coveted. There are many other planes in the scatter, however, such as the hunting grounds, created by the demon of the chase by tearing away a chunk of the fairy and claiming it for his own. Or Tartarus, a plane formed by the rotting carcass of a mysterious god of the same name. It is here that the Red City of Dis can be found, a city built from mortal suffering. Neither part of the Empyrean or the Maelstrom, nor even the scatter itself, is the Under. The Under is a dark place, which the River of the Lost flows into, depositing the forgotten things of the cosmos. It is the trash heap of universes, the rubbish pile of gods. Here can be found Asphodel, a planet composed entirely of the discarded trash of the worlds above, and which is inhabited by the wraiths of souls lost to the river. The Styx here drains into oblivion itself, a cosmological black hole, an event horizon from which there is no return, a dispassionate consumption of all of creation. It is here where true death may be found.